Now you know the answer to this question, but it's a question that a lot of people ask because they don't come to First Presbyterian Church. They ask themselves, how do I get faith? I know people of faith, but how do I get it? How does it come to me? Where does it come from? When do I get it? Do I have to be 25 years old to get faith? Do I have to be 50? Do I have to be married? Do I have to have a job to have faith? Where do I get it? When do I get it? Well, the Apostle Paul tells us that faith is a gift from God. He gives it precisely when we need it, the very first time. And He continues to give us faith as we move through our life and are in need of faith. Sometimes we're flying high and doing well and everything's hunky-dory all around us and we don't think we need faith. But then something hits us and pulls us down. And then we realize, man, I need faith because I am sinking fast. I need some help here. So we go to God and God gives us faith. Now faith should not be confused with things like self-confidence or self-reliance or even courage. Faith comes precisely when our logic and reason hit a brick wall and can take us no farther. For instance, we usually get a bolt of faith when somebody that we love grows ill or has a surgery of some kind. And so we say, oh Lord, I need faith. I need faith to pray for this person and I want you to heal this person and this and that. Well, that's fine. But because we pray that way because our logic and reason say science is in charge of this situation, not God. This disease is in charge of this situation, not God. And as people of faith, we have to know that God is in charge of every situation. Whether it looks like this person is going to recover or not, you see. I remember praying for my dad's healing when he had cancer, and that wasn't cutting it. That wasn't going to happen. So I learned to change my prayer, and God said, "No, I've got him. He's in good shape. He's in good hands. I'm going to take him. But that's all right. You'll be okay, and he'll be okay." So see, faith helped me understand what was going on with that. Even though my reason and logic wanted something else to happen, God made something else to happen that was beyond my reason and my logic. The reason this operates is because God working within us is a lot more powerful than our reason and logic can use as a tool for understanding a situation. When we get involved in a situation, we're confused about it, we don't know what's happening or why this is happening to us, that's when God's faith takes us beyond what we can understand, beyond our reason and our logic. And He helps us from within ourselves, not necessarily from external situations or circumstances. Let me try to give you an example of personal faith from the prophet Elijah. Now, Elijah was a naturally, physically powerful person. He was a strong man. He had a lot of self-confidence. He had a lot of courage. But he also needed faith to do what God was asking him to do. He carried the power of God in a cloak on his shoulders. And wherever he went, the power of God went with him because he wore the cloak all the time. His personal experience of God taught him to trust God, to depend on God, to rely on God, to be his strength. Oh yes, he had the power of God in that cloak, but he also had to do things that we would be afraid to do. He had to go speak to kings and princes. He had to speak to warlords and to armies, and he had to heal people and raise them from the dead and do all manner of things. That takes some moxie, and Elijah had it. But he had it also because he had learned to trust God and depend on God to be his strength when he needed that strength from God. Let me tell you one of the great stories of Elijah's career. When bad King Ahab of the northern kingdom of Israel married Jezebel, Ahab began to worship her gods. which were Phoenician gods, gods of fertility, there were lots of gods, the Baalim they're called, or the Baals in common jargon. So to appease his new wife and make a political alliance with her country of Phoenicia, he started worshiping her gods also. Now, we know that's not going to work with our God, right? The God of Israel, the God of Judah, the God of Moses, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is a jealous God. God didn't want you to worship anybody but Him. So where does Ahab, the king of Israel, get off worshiping somebody else's God? And it wasn't just her gods. It was everybody's gods. He was trying to be everybody to everybody, everything to everybody. And he worshipped any god that you'd lay before him if he could make a political union with you, make a pact of peace. He thought he was a great king because of his political acumen. Well, it wasn't working out so well, and wasn't going to for Israel, because Ahab worshipped everybody's gods, not just the one true God. So, God told Elijah to confront the gods, the prophets of the Baalim, the prophets who would be the intercessors for the gods of Phoenicia. And God told Elijah to confront Ahab and Jezebel with this apostasy, whereupon Elijah challenged the 450 prophets of the Baalim in a contest to see which worshiped the true God. Was it Elijah, or was it the 450 other prophets? Who worshiped the true God? Well, in this contest, the Baalim prophets were to build an altar and put enough wood on it to burn a bull, which they killed and put on top of the wood. And then they were to call on their gods, the Baalim gods, come down and set fire to this sacrifice. And as was the custom for the prophets of the Baalim, the foreign gods, they would cut themselves and wail and dance and cut themselves more. Let the blood flow. This is our sacrifice to you, almighty gods. And supposedly at the end of their imitation, their gods would send down fire and cook the bull and prove that He's the true God. Well, they did this all day and into the evening, and what happened? Nothing happened. They were cut and bloody and worn out and exhausted. Nothing happened. Their God was asleep or something.